Oh, and my score for John Wick is a 9.8 out of 10. Godzilla King of the Monsters is a 5.3 out of 10. Because at least the action is cool. And for Detective Pikachu, well, a lot of people are mixed about this. One of my friends is like, Detective Pikachu sucked. Not giving me an explanation why it sucked, but I can have a few reasons to know why it sucked. But for me, well, I'll tell you. Okay, let's get this out of the way. I do not believe... No, let me rephrase that. I did not think the story was good in this movie. I thought the story was not well written at all. I'm serious. The story was poorly written, poorly made. It was trying to be a detective story, like it was trying to fool you. It was trying to lead you on to thinking, oh, this person is the bad guy, but they're not. And yeah, they failed at doing that. I don't think they did a good job doing that at all. Like, I feel like it was just obvious. It's not a good detective story to me. It's not the best detective story. And I've seen better. I love detective stories as much as the next guy. Like, again, I love, like, Sherlock Holmes. Like, Sherlock Holmes is a great, like, collection of stories about great mysteries that keep you guessing and trying to see who is the person that's behind it, who's the mastermind, who's the killer, or how they do it. Like, you already know who the killer is, and you're trying to wonder how they do it, how did they screw up, and how did Sherlock try to best them and defeat them. This movie's just like a whodunit story, but it's just not written well. Besides the fact about that, the times that they kept hiding I forgot the character's name, but he hold on, what is Justice Smith? Well, let's just say Justice Smith, because that's all I know the actor's name is Justice Smith. As I said, the movie begins with the character Harry getting attacked by Mewtwo, supposedly. But when you find out in the movie, it's not Mewtwo that attacks him, it's actually these Pokemon working for this bad guy that is so obviously the bad guy, you can just fucking like write it on his goddamn forehead that says bad guy, and you put duh in small tiny letters, and you play the Billie Eilish song. And sorry. Do I not like Justice Smith's character? Okay, first off, I hated Justice Smith for one thing, and that was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Justice Smith, he's not a bad actor. He's actually pretty good in this movie. I tolerate him more in this movie than I tolerated him in fucking Fallen Kingdom. In Fallen Kingdom, he was an annoying little shit. He was this hipster dinosaur hugger enthusiast kid that wanted to save the dinosaurs, who screamed a lot every time he sees a killer raptor and shit, and he just like yells and just whines and complains and looks like he's stupid, not knowing what he's doing, and he clearly does know what he's doing, and he's like an idiot. And Justice Smith was annoying in that movie. Him and the other hipster kids in that movie. And that movie just... Here, Justice Smith is actually fine. It shows how much a good actor he is. I mean, he still has those quirks and well, acting like a similar character he was in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but he's more tolerable in this one. I actually liked him in this film. People say his character was annoying, thinking like, oh, he doesn't like his father, he hates him, he doesn't have no redeeming arc to say like, oh, he just yells and complains. It's like, I don't have nothing to do with my father, I don't care about him. But I was like thinking, like, he doesn't learn, and he doesn't learn that he needs his father more than ever. He does learn that he needs his father more than ever. He has this heart-to-heart moment with Pikachu in the film where he talks about his dad, and Pikachu said about that he lost his memory and he'll do anything in his power to help Justice Smith find his father. And I thought that was a good moment. And he even wanted to stay with Pikachu and help him, but Pikachu felt like he was a problem, and he felt like he caused trouble everywhere he goes. And he says like, I'm a danger, get away from me, Justice. And that's sad. I felt like that was depressing, but you know, it led to a funny scene in the movie where the Ryan Reynolds Pikachu sings the Pokemon song, and I thought that was the best scene in the film, where he cries and sings it like, I wanna be the very best that no one ever was. You can't stand the knife test, try to miss my cause. I love it. I almost cried over there. I'm method acting right here. I didn't know I could do that, like fake cry on command and act up the tears. I didn't know I could do that. Don't worry, I'm not gonna use that to my advantage. Hell no. That'll be messed up and cruel. Okay, first off, the weirdest thing I found in this movie was that Dopender was in this movie. The actor who plays Dopender in the Deadpool movies. It was weird. I guess Ryan Reynolds was like, hey, you should put him in this movie because, you know, he's in Deadpool and I'm Ryan Reynolds, so you would do what I say. But, yeah, this movie's about the character, Justice Smith finds out his father is missing or supposedly dead, and Ken Watanabe tries to explain to him, I'm sorry about your dad's loss or whatever. And it's weird, like, it's a mix of emotion, like, oh no, this is dramatic and sad. And then a Lickitung goes and licks him, which is, what the fuck? It's so weird. I do love the lore of the Pokemon, which is funny to me. Like, they saying Pokemon exist in our world for so many times, and they show a caveman drawing of a Pikachu and caveman with Pokeballs, which I found so funny, because I'm like, Pokemon have been here for so long, even cavemen been catching them all. So I thought that was a pretty hilarious bit of lore in the Pokemon universe that we never knew. Even Egyptian times Pokemon were known, which I found even more hilarious. Like, there's a Geodude, a Bulbasaur, and I can't remember what the armadillo's called, but yeah. Also, I feel like they previewed Red in this movie, because there was this Asian kid who was wearing all red, and he had to fight this other trainer with a Gyarados. And I was like, is that Red from the OG Pokemon? And I thought that was pretty cool. I say this movie's great for a Pokemon fan, because if you don't like the story of the movie, and that's understandable, the story is predictable, it's terrible, it's awful. I don't think the story is good. I really wish the story was better. But from what I've learned, I heard the story to this movie is similar to the game. I'm not kidding. I heard it was. Like, they made a few changes in the story, but they really actually took the story premise from the game and put it in the movie, but made a few changes along the way. And I thought that was creative. Even the city, Rhyme City, it's actually pretty cool. Like, you see Pokemon and humans living in harmony. They don't live in Pokeballs. They're just living in the city together, all peaceful and happy. And there's a lot of cool references and a lot of beautiful shots of these Pokemon. Like, you would see like normal birds or normal animals, but it's actually just Pokemon, which I found beautiful. Like, even though they obviously look CGI, I say that the CGI is so amazing. Like, even it's cartoony, yet you don't care. It actually does look so beautiful. Like, you actually feel like the Pokemon are actually there, despite how out of place and CGI they look. But I thought they were interesting. I thought it was pretty cool to see like Pokemon like interacting with humans, actually having jobs, shockingly. Like, holy shit. And I even love, it's in the trailer, but I love that there's a Snorlax sleeping in the middle of the road. And there's a Machamp, I think? I don't know what the Pokemon's called. But, like, directing traffic, trying to show them, like, okay, move away from the Snorlax. Which I found hilarious because, again, this was a tweet that I read from one of my favorite YouTubers, Noble from Lost Paws, where he's like, what if you're at work, like you're late for work, and then a Snorlax blocks your path to your work? Like, hey boss, sorry, I'm gonna be late to work again. Yeah, it's the Snorlax. He's blocking the traffic again. That'd be the weirdest thing to say. Hey, let's see, like, Ken Watanabe, clearly he was probably in this movie because, you know, on the other set on the Warner Brothers lot, I'm guessing he was doing Godzilla King of the Monsters, and they just asked him to come in to just say a few lines and be in this movie. Like, Ken Watanabe doesn't fucking slum a performance. This man, he always gives it his all. This dude gives his performance 100%. He doesn't go lower. This man is a good actor. And I can't believe he's in this movie. Oh my god. If I want to talk about a character that was weird to me, it was the girl in this movie and her Psyduck. And I kept thinking, is it Misty? Because Misty has a Psyduck, but it's not Misty. And this girl, she is odd. Like, in the beginning, her intro is weird because she is basically an intern for the news station at Rhyme City. And she comes in here talking like a detective, like, I talk the talk and I also walk the walk. I walk my beat. I'm the best detective or whatever. She just says detective slang. Like, that's all she says. She says detective slang. And I'm like, can you please stop? Like, it's so weirdly annoying to me that I just feel like it was just unnecessary. Like, why do you need to talk like a detective and look professional? You just look like one of those Japanese idol girls. No, strike that. White girls who always try to look like the Japanese idol girls. You know the ones that the white girls try to look Asian as possible and try to mimic their favorite Japanese idols. Like, that's what she's looking like. And she's trying to look so intimidating, and she's like, ooh, look at me, I'm impressive. I got my iPhone on interview mode and shit. And she just looks so non-intimidating, and I just found her annoying the first time they show her in this movie. She's like, I'm gonna get answers. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm so annoyed with being the intern life. I'm like, please shut up. Christ. I'm with Justice Smith, like, shut up. Which leads to a different scene when he goes into the apartment and then he's like, he hears a detective movie on in the background. Only, it's not a detective movie. This is, by the way, if you don't know this black and white movie that was playing on the TV, then clearly you never seen Home Alone, because that's a fake movie. That movie doesn't exist. Home Alone just made up that movie just to say, hey, it's a violent movie. I think you know the movie. It's the one where he's like, keep the change, you filthy animal. And, okay, let's talk about the aesthetic. I love the aesthetic of this movie. Like, the look of Rhyme City is beautiful. And it's an actual city, it's half CGI and half an actual city. And that city looks beautiful. And I love that it tries to do an Asian Japanese like vibe to it. But at the same time, the movie feels like Blade Runner 2049. Because it has like these blue neon lights in the background. It looks very cyberpunk-ish. I use the term loosely on ish, like it's cyberpunk-ish. Because it's not futuristic, like there's no flying cars. It has that cyberpunk feel of like it's like, oh, here is this city and here is all this beautiful lighting in this like neon noir city, and that's what it felt like. And I know that's what the feel they were going with for that movie, and I appreciate for them to go that route and show it's a neon noir kind of film because it's a detective film. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was great that they were trying to do that. But I just kept thinking of Blade Runner and Ghost in a Shell. It's so weird. Like, you just see those blue and red neon lights and you just think, wow, this is just every cyberpunk movie ever. But Rhyme City actually has its unique feel to it because it doesn't feel like Blade Runner as much. It feels more like it's an actual Pokemon city, like it's an actual Pokemon region that we never seen before. Because I think we never seen Rhyme City before, because as a Pokemon fan, well, casual Pokemon fan, I never heard of Rhyme City. So this was an interesting take on saying like Pokemon fighting is illegal in this city. So I thought that was pretty cool that they did a different concept to it. Though, you know, I really wish there was more Pokemon fighting in this movie and less detective work. I mean, yes, this movie was trying to dip its toes because they were trying to do the Pokemon fandom right. Because they were trying to make sure they haven't pissed off the Pokemon fans. And I get that. They wanted to play it safe. So let's hope it's not another Detective Pikachu movie. I really hope they do something different. Like, I think I'm with Pan Pizza on this one. They need to do a Pokemon Coliseum movie. That would be freaking awesome. Or at least a Pokemon movie about Pokemon tournaments and fighting in gyms and such. I feel like they should do that. I don't know how they can make it into a movie, but I can think of a few ways they could. And Pokemon Coliseum is a step in the right direction to do that. And it sounds difficult, yes, but I feel like you can do something creative in movies to make an intense Pokemon battle. Which I feel like they can, because the ending fight scene between Pikachu and Mewtwo is really, really insane. Like, I love that fight scene. That fight scene was intense. But I think that was because I was doing like D-Box, and D-Box is like, you know those rides, those movie rides in parks, like in theme parks, like Universal Studios or Disney, you know, like Star Tours. Like, that's my example. Star Tours, or the Harry Potter ride, or the Back to the Future ride. Yeah, it's basically that. D-Box is basically like you are like part of the action in the film, and that's what I was doing in that theater, is going on D-Box. But you know, it wasn't my thing. I wouldn't do it again. It was a one-time thing. And it was an interesting experience. And Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, it's weird. I really wish he wasn't Pikachu. They only got Ryan Reynolds because Deadpool, he's popular or whatever. I really wish they got Danny DeVito as freaking Detective Pikachu. And they didn't. They didn't get Danny DeVito, which I really wish they did. Could you imagine Danny DeVito as Detective Pikachu? That would have been better, because he would actually sound more like a hard-boiled detective and whatever and something, but they didn't. And everyone petitioned that to have Danny DeVito play Detective Pikachu in the video game. It didn't happen. And I think they just got a voice actor that sounded like Danny DeVito and just did that. I never played the game. I never did. The only detective game that has the word Mon at the end I'm playing is Digimon Cyber Sleuth. So, sue me. I'm a Pokemon fan and a Digimon fan. You thought those things will never exist. Yeah, well, I'm a Star Trek casual fan and a hardcore Star Wars fan, so explain that. And I thought it was interesting. Still, Ryan Reynolds was still fun. I think Ryan Reynolds carried the film. Ryan Reynolds and the Pokemon carried the film. Because without Ryan Reynolds and without these beautiful Pokemon that surround this entire movie, I feel like the movie would have died, because the story can't carry this film. So it's only Ryan Reynolds and the enjoyment of these Pokemon in the movie. Oh my god, Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff is great. Cause she is working at a coffee shop, like a cafe, and apparently I feel like her singing Jigglypuff, and everyone is like, and she's like next to the one guy that's passed out asleep. I feel like it's a marketing scam to get people to buy more coffee so they can stay awake. Buy more coffee or else she'll draw on your face. But anyway, as a Pokemon fan, I love the movie for having all these Pokemon and making them so good. Like, the CGI is amazing. As I said, it's cartoony, yes, but I just love how realistic they look. And I heard this, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't quote me on this, but the animators for this movie took inspiration from a fan. Because remember, back then, long ago, before this movie, there was a fan who made like art of if Pokemon were realistic, and he put like he made this art that he drew of these Pokemon characters, but what if they looked realistic? And he gave them like so many details, like Pikachu has fur, and other creatures that wouldn't have fur gave them scales and shit. The animators for this movie took inspiration from a fan art, this of a fan who made this art of Pokemon realistic. And I really hope that fan got some credit and some money to boot also, because if he didn't get any credit from the animators who made this movie, then you should sue. But I really hope that fan got credit, because that's pretty cool that they really wanted to be part of the Pokemon fandom and be faithful to the fans as possible to make a Pokemon world. I mean, yes, they could have made the story better. I 100% agree. The story was not that great. It was meh. It was lacking in depth, and for me, it was blah. But I felt like they did a good job making these characters. I mean, the human characters could use some work. I mean, Justice Smith does a great job, and I think he's perfectly cast in this movie, because I watched interviews about him, and he loves Pokemon. Like, he's a Pokemon fan, and he knows a lot about Pokemon. Like, if you remember the scene in the movie where he goes to the illegal Pokemon fighting club, he talks about like when Pikachu was about to fight the Charizard. He's like, okay, your best attack is Volt attack. You also have Thunderbolt and I can't remember the other attacks he said. And when I heard him say that, I'm like, that wasn't a script in the movie. Justice Smith knew that from the get-go. And he is like a real Pokemon fan. And if you're saying like, oh, he's just saying that because he did research for this movie before he did it. Okay, there's a movie that proves that he's a Pokemon fan. He was in a movie called, I forgot what it was called. It was called Paper Town, Paper Trails. It was that Nat Wolf movie, and it was based on, the John Green books, like The Fault in Our Stars and shit. Yeah. Like, there was a movie called, if I can look it up, if I'm right, it was called Paper Town or Paper Trails. I don't remember what it was called. I'm gonna look it up. Paper Town. Let's see if I'm right. Load up. Yeah, it's called Paper Towns. Paper Towns, yeah. And Justice Smith was in this movie. It starred him. Nat Wolf was the main star. Cara Delevingne was also in it. Probably a young Cara Delevingne at this point. And it was about Nat Wolf trying to find this girl. And he felt like the notes that he was left from her was to go find her and be with her because he's in love with her. But it's to show that she didn't love him, and she just ran away, and she thinks she's not good for him. And there is a scene in the movie with Justice Smith in it, and Justice Smith was singing the Pokemon theme song, I wanna be the very best that no one, or I don't know if he was singing that or he was singing the Pokemon rap, the one that goes Electro Diglett or something. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon. Yeah, so Justice Smith is a fan of Pokemon, so I'm glad they cast him. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, Quick Attack, Discharge. Yeah, that was it. Quick Attack and Discharge. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's his. That is his attack. Yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like how he knew about the Pikachu's main attacks that he knows. Yeah, he does a great job in this movie. So Justice Smith, I think he's the best thing in this movie. The other characters could use some work because they're not well made. These characters are not, well developed. And I feel like Justice Smith and Ryan Reynolds work off each other pretty well. Even with what Ryan Reynolds had to work with, even though he doesn't know shit about Pokemon, he does his best to do right with what he's got. even though he doesn't know shit about Pokemon. Well, he is a Pikachu with amnesia, so it works out well that he doesn't know much about Pokemon. So I guess he has a lot of big shoes to fill to appease to the fans. Oh my god. What do I hate about this movie? Yeah, the whole main story arc about, oh no, what happened to Justice Smith's father? And you don't see the father's face, you always see the back of his head, and you know for a fact that's fucking Ryan Reynolds. Because they keep blocking his face and everything, and you're like thinking, that's Ryan Reynolds. Why are you blocking his face? It's Ryan fucking Reynolds. You are not fooling us. Like, I knew that was him. I knew the father didn't die. I knew Mewtwo didn't kill the father. And I knew the plot before it even ended. That's how bad the detective work in this story is. It's so bad that you know the twist already. And that's not good. That's not good. And I can argue this. That they were not focused on story at all. They were more focused at trying to be a Pokemon movie. And that's all I can give the movie credit. It's a Pokemon movie, and it does a damn good job being a Pokemon movie, because it feels like you're in the Pokemon world. It feels like you are where you are in, that this is a Pokemon world. Like, this is actually connected to the anime, and it's part of Pokemon lore. And I thought that was pretty cool. It didn't feel like an out-of-place movie. It didn't feel like a cash grab movie at all. This movie is a love letter to Pokemon. And as much as you can say the story is shit, it is. The story is terrible. But you gotta know that this movie did something that Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario Brothers, Double Dragon, Assassin's Creed, and the list goes on to what video game movies I hate. They didn't do what this movie did. And Assassin's Creed didn't understand its Assassin's Creed fans and what they loved. Fucking Mario Brothers movie didn't understand what people loved about the Mario Brothers movie. Double Dragon didn't know jack shit about why people love Double Dragon. And you can argue this is not a video game movie. It could be an anime movie, but fine, whatever. But this is a video game movie because Pokemon comes from a video game. I say this movie pays so much respect to Pokemon fans out there. Even if the story is not that great, and I know I've been repeating that a lot, I'm sorry. I say it does a good job treating the fans and people who aren't fans of Pokemon with respect. They don't have to go and do a long ass explanation about what are Pokemon and why are they part of this world. They just say Pokemon exist in this world, we live with them, and we should be happy that they are with us. And that's it. They don't need to explain it. They don't need to explain to you what are Pokemon. They don't need to tell you gotta catch them all. They just tell you these are Pokemon and you know the rest of the story. And that's great. You don't need to know about Ash or Misty or Brock or whatever. And I could see why the movie wanted to focus on different characters. They want to play their cards right. They want to be safe. They don't want to risk anything yet. So they're just dipping their toes in the moment to see if Pokemon fans will like that and hope to God they got it right. And they did. When I see those Pokemon in the movie, I believe it's those Pokemon. Because the Pokemon are acting like the Pokemon should. I believe it's a Charmander. I believe that's Pikachu. I believe that's Jigglypuff. I believe that's Psyduck. They actually act and feel like these characters. And they do a good job. Even the look of the characters are so well made that it's just cocaine for my eyes. Like, it's a visual spectacle seeing these Pokemon creatures alive in live action. It's so weird, yet so beautiful to look at. And I appreciate this movie for doing that. They paid respect to these characters, and they did a good job. I will say this, the one twist in the movie that got me was finding out that the bad guy's secretary was a fucking Ditto. And I was like, and I thought it was so creative because this character always wore sunglasses the entire movie, and she removes them to show her beady eyes, and I'm like, that is fucking creepy. I always found Ditto creepy. Ditto is creepy as fuck. He really is. That motherfucker creepy. Like, he can turn into anything, and you wouldn't even know if he is if he's the actual Pokemon or Ditto. And yes, the only way you can find out it's a Ditto is because of his beady little eyes. He cannot mimic eyes for some reason. And it's creepy as fuck seeing him portray human character. And I found it very creative that he was just wearing sunglasses the whole time to disguise it. And that how he hasn't talked, because if he talked, he would only say Ditto. And that's why you see her, like, the secretary, she's like texting and not talking, like not calling on the phone like, hello, yes, I found them. No, she just texts. I thought that was creative. I thought that was pretty silly, but I thought that was pretty cool and creative what they did. God, this movie is just awesome. This movie is just awesome. For being respectful to the Pokemon lore and the fans. The Mewtwo thing was pretty cool too. Like, I found it cool. I really wish they had Mew, but sadly they didn't. The whole fight scene between Pikachu and Mewtwo was cool. It was awesome. I thought it was a pretty intense scene seeing these Pokemon fight because, you know, that's all I wanted to see, live action Pokemon fight each other. And sadly, we didn't get much of it, but I'm glad they showed a bit of it. Including, like, never mind. Sorry, I was thinking of something I forgot. But yeah, I say it's not a good movie. At all. The movie, story, terrible and simple. Like, it's simplistic, it's for kids. However, for a Pokemon fan, it's a treat for the eyes. It's a treat. I say the movie is great for a visual standpoint. It's great for a visual standpoint. It's not good for character development. It's not great for story. It's good for visual. Like, it's a visual movie. Like, you can watch this movie without the dialogue and listen to that nice soundtrack, because that soundtrack is original, yet you can hear music cues from Pokemon. Like, since I used to play Pokemon Yellow when I was a kid, I was having a fangasm hearing the do 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 do. That was cool. I love that. That just gave me so much nostalgia. It's like that's what I loved about this movie. It's filled with nostalgia for people who love Pokemon. And that's what I say the movie's good for. It's good for a visual standpoint of seeing all these Pokemon all together in a live action movie, and it's so beautiful and treats everyone not a baby. They treat them as Pokemon fans. Like, they treat you like you already know Pokemon and you already been exposed to it so many times, either forcefully by your kids or what you grew up on in the 90s. And I love that. I love that this movie does that. I love that this movie shows us Pokemon and just that's it. And yeah, the movie could have been better. Yeah, the story could have been much, much better. But I feel like they did the smart thing and concentrate on world building, like building the world of Pokemon more than the story. Because if they didn't build this new world, this new city in this movie, and they were only focusing on the story, then I feel like the movie would have failed for both fans and critics. And I feel like it's best if you don't get the critics' interest and more likely just concentrate on the fans, which I think is the best thing they did. They did research, they did look at what Pokemon are, and they did right to research this and make sure that they are careful to make Pokemon right for the fans. Like, they want to be faithful and honest as possible and not become another Mario Brothers movie. So thank God they didn't do that. So my rating for that movie is a 6.5 out of 10. It could have been better for story and character development, but it still got me with the Pokemon. So that's why I love the movie. I don't like it for its story at all. I love it for the Pokemon and all the references and quick gags they do in the movie that a Pokemon fan will get, but not a person who doesn't know Pokemon will get. So I approve. So if you're not a Pokemon fan and you don't get the references and you don't get the world, you might not like this movie. So yeah, to each its own. Anyway, this has been an hour and 33 minutes of me ranting about Pokemon and Godzilla and John Wick. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one where I'll talk about Danganronpa episodes 7 through 12, a future arc. So be sure to look over that. Take care, everyone. Ciao, darlings.
Huh? Really? That's annoying. I guess I should just awkwardly laugh about it then. Heh.